It's 100% playing out the vision of the head coach, which I think is a good sign that they're on the same page.
The Bears seem to be done with their flurry of movements. All eyes are kind of watching the Vikings to see if Aaron Rodgers is serious or not. What's going on with them?
Yeah, I mean, this is, obviously something that, has evolved, I'd say, over the last few weeks. And I think a lot of it, rides on what the Vikings want to do as much as what Aaron wants to do. And, the one thing that's pretty clear is the Vikings want some insurance against J.J. McCarthy. They made an offer for Sam Darnold to come back. They made an offer that was very competitive with what the Colts offered Daniel Jones, and he got $14 million there to bring Daniel Jones back. So very clearly, as much as they like J.J. McCarthy, I think they feel like they owe it to their team to make sure that they are fully stocked at that position. Now, the difference between bringing Sam back or bringing Daniel Jones back versus bringing Aaron Rodgers is, if you bring Aaron Rodgers, the competition's over. You know what I mean? Like, there is no competition. So that's sort of, what they're working through, and we'll see what happens. I think it's very clearly the most attractive destination of the three that are on the table right now, and we'll see if Minnesota puts something compelling in front of Rodgers. Otherwise it's the Steelers, the Giants, or potentially retirement.
Do they care about the distractions that Aaron Rodgers can bring?
I think they feel like they can handle it, Jurko. Like, I don't know. I think if this were, Kevin O'Connell's first year, then I think you would probably look at that as more of a factor. I think at this point, and this will be year 4 for him now. After what they've accomplished the first 3 years, and the infrastructure they have in place with leaders like Harrison Smith and Justin Jefferson and all these guys in the building. Like I think they feel like they have the infrastructure to absorb all of that, and that it won't be as much of a problem because it is a veteran team that is going to be less susceptible to some of the ebbs and flows that can come with it. That makes it very different than what the Jets were. I mean, I've kind of made this comparison, over the last week or so, where if you look at like the Giants and Steelers, the Steelers are like that too. Like, the Steelers have a very established culture. Obviously, Tomlin's been there forever. You've got, T.J. Watt is going to be 31. Minka Fitzpatrick is going to be 29. Cam Hayward's still there. And so, it would be more Aaron Rodgers going in and jumping on a moving train, a team that's already been winning, right? Where I think, like, the Giants would be asking Aaron Rodgers to do what the Jets were asking him to do, which is, we've got a group of promising young players. Now it's, on you to elevate them. So I just think it's a different situation, where, I don't think, the Justin Jeffersons, the Christian Darrisaw's, the Harrison Smiths, the Jonathan Grenards, the Andrew Van Ginkels of the world. Like, I don't think those guys are going to be, affected all that much by, Aaron Rodgers going on the Pat McAfee show on a Tuesday.
I understand the insurance policy, but at his age, I don't know that how much insurance is it for Aaron Rodgers and J.J. McCarthy. We don't know how healthy he is until we actually see him take the field again, right?
And Peggy, that's exactly it. Like, he went through the 2 surgeries. The second one was more of a cleanup. He lost a ton of weight, and that's a concern because his weight was a question coming out, and how much of the weight that he put on in the pre-draft process was real. How's he going to hold up in the NFL? These are all questions, and for better or worse, he lost 4 months of development time. Now, I would say, like, they did bring him on the road the second half of the season, and they did have him in the quarterback's room. So it's not like he completely vanished, but there are things that he lost, having not been on the field and a full-on member of the team through the regular season and into the playoffs. And so, I think part of it is, I mentioned all those names, the Harrison Smiths, the Andrew Van Ginkels, the Jonathan Grenards, the Justin Jeffersons, the Christian Darrisaw's. That's not a rebuilding team. They won 14 games last year. And, I think Kevin, having been a former player himself, would tell you, I owe it to those guys to make sure we're good at that position. So, At first blush, the idea was, okay, like Daniel Jones or Sam Darnold will be an insurance policy. That's not what Aaron Rodgers would be. You know what I mean? Like Aaron Rodgers, I think, would be more, we're pressing pause on the J.J. McCarthy era.
Yeah.
And we're giving him another year to sit. And that's why I think it's like a different decision, right? Like, I mean, even if you bring Sam Darnold back and you say he's going to be the starting quarterback, if he has a bad month, you could conceivably, flip him out and go to J.J. McCarthy, right? Same thing with Daniel Jones. Like, and I don't know that Daniel Jones would even win the job, right? Like J.J. might beat out Daniel Jones for the job, and then you just go with J.J. Like, this is way different than that, right? Like where, Aaron Rodgers coming in, he's not going there to have it be where if he has a rough couple of weeks to start the season, you're pulling him. That's not the way it's going to work.
What's left in free agency? We've been through a week of this. It looks like there's still some quality wide receivers out there that can't find homes.
A bunch of veteran receivers and quarterbacks who are waiting on the one other quarterback to make his decision so the rest of them can find homes. I mean, you sort of feel for Joe Flacco and Russell Wilson. Even Kirk Cousins is affected by this. It's just a bunch of teams are waiting on the shoe to drop. And, when are we going to find out what Aaron Rodgers is doing? And once that happens, I think the rest of the quarterback market kind of shakes out. But you're right. Like I think a lot of the receiver market is a little stuck right now, and it's Amari Cooper. It's it's Stephon
Diggs, Keenan Allen.
You guys know the names, yeah. Brandon Cooks is out there. So I think for a lot of these guys, part of it is coming to grips with the fact that you're not going to make the money you're used to making, right? Like which happens with veteran players. A lot of the time, guys will sit out in the market. Like that money that I was making, I'm not going to make that much. So you got to come to grips with that. And I think we're also kind of in the phase now where some of these guys could take visits if they wanted to, right? Like, because once you get past the first 2 or 3 days of free agency where no one's taking visits for those, of course, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Now, you actually have a little bit of breathing room to say, okay, like, well, if I'm not quite sure about this team and they're offering me a little less, but I kind of like the idea of it, why don't they find me in and I can go and take a visit? Those guys I think are sort of in that stage of it where it's maybe this team wants to come in and give me a physical because I had a broken clavicle or torn ACL or something like that a couple of years ago. You're sort of at the stage of free agency where some of that stuff can happen.
So much money is being spent in free agency. These owners really gave their general managers the credit cards this time around. But look at the NFC North. I mean, the Vikings have spent the most. The Packers have spent more than the Bears. And everyone in Chicago is like, we've never seen the Bears come out spending like they've been doing. What does that tell you about the amount of money that's been thrown out there so quickly?
I mean, don't ever tell an NFL owner, don't ever listen to an NFL owner when he tells you that he's got some sort of financial issue because it just ain't true. I mean, the salary cap is going to be $300 million in 2026. Just to give you guys some context on that, it was under $100 million in, I think, 2007. So that's insane, that level of growth.
2005 was 85.5. In 06, it was 102 million.
And then it went back down under, right? In 07, I think.
Let me see. 102, 109, 116, 123. We had the uncapped year.
Okay.
And then it was 120 and 11.
All right. So, I mean, you're essentially – so 2006 was 100, you said, right, Jurko? Right, 100.2?
Yeah, 102 in 2006.
Okay, so let's just think about that. 2026 is going to be over 300 million. That's triple. And that's all based on an equation, by the way, just so people know that it's just a function of the revenue, right? That's all it is. That's all that number is. It's not a number they dreamed up in their head and thought about what would be fair. No, it's an actual mathematical equation that relates back to the revenue. So, I think it's pretty clear that the number is going up, going to keep going up. There's going to be a new TV deal in a few years. God knows what's going to happen to the salary cap after that. I mean, look, they're printing money right now, and so teams have room to operate this way. You saw what the Bengals did. The Bears, I think it's a credit to them that they take the bold swing. And really, I think a huge part of it is playing out the vision for Ben Johnson. I think you're a product of where you came from, and Ben Johnson coming from Detroit, like that team was built on the lines of scrimmage. Like they inherited Frank Ragnow and Taylor Decker on offense. First thing they do is draft Penei Sewell. On defense, they have the second overall pick in their second year. They take Aiden Hutchinson. After Sewell in 2021, they draft 2 defensive tackles and Lee McNeil and Levi. So you look at the totality of it. It was like build the lines of scrimmage first. And what are they doing in Chicago now? Well, they signed Drew Dahlman. They trade for Jonah Jackson and Joe Tooney, and they sign on defense Javon Hargrave and Dio Odoyingbo. Like it's 100% playing out the vision of the head coach, which I think is a good sign that they're on the same page. And look, like again, give ownership credit for understanding the changing landscape and understanding that a lot of these deals that look expensive now probably won't look that costly in a couple of years.
Albert, can you stick around? We want to talk to you a little bit more about the Bears and the draft.
Albert, it took 12 years for the cap to get $100 million. It took 16 to go to $200 million. It's going to take 5 to go to $300 million. With new television contracts coming at 2030, right? With all the advent of the 18 games that are coming, it's just a matter of time. And everybody wanting to get in on a piece of the action, how long does it take to get to $500 million?
Ooh.
For the salary cap?
That's a good question.
That's what we're looking at, right? That's what we're looking at.
It is, and especially because, and look, like I guess I'm part of it now, but like the streaming partners getting involved and having some success. I mean, I can just tell you. My bosses at Amazon were thrilled with how everything's gone this year. I saw it up close, and I think the Netflix people were really excited about what Christmas Day did. I think if you look at those elements of it, it's like, now you've got like these, people with. I don't know if it's a bottomless pit of money, but it's probably as close as you're going to get to it, right?
Yep.
That are going to be bidding and that are going to be motivated to go and get NFL rights. And so, like, what does that look like? And is this next set of television deals going to be the sea change? And if that's the case, is the NFL going to be able to charge a tax for those companies to come in and like pay and take the NFL away from the traditional model, which has been to have all this stuff on free TV always? It's a fascinating time. I don't know if it's going to be. I don't know what it's going to look like in 5 years. But with the prospect of that, again, remember the salary cap is just a function of the revenue, and so whatever that number is. The owners are taking home every bit as much, if not more, than the players are. And the split, I believe, right now is around 50-50. Yeah. But the owners are making a ton of money off
right,
of it.
And it's 50 off the designated gross revenue, the DGR, which excludes a bunch of things that the players don't get a piece of.
Well, now it's actually total revenue, I believe. But they've gone back and forth on that a bunch. But it's either way, you're walking into an environment now where I don't know where these numbers go. I mean, it's going to be insane.
It'll get crazy.
And so I think that's the interesting thing about the contracts is like you look at it and it's. I mean, do you guys remember like how crazy the Deshaun Watson thing seemed at the time, right?
Yeah.
And it still does because he hasn't played well. But if he had played well, that would look like a bargain right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like at $46 million per, that's like so far, back of what Dak Prescott's gotten. You know what I mean? And that contract's held up pretty well, all things considered. But it's just where it's going, and the numbers are, crazy. I think about here's another good illustration: is Drew Brees was the first $20 million quarterback, right?
Yep.
And I believe he got that $20 million deal. I want to say it was like right around 2011. So that would be 14 years ago, and 13 if we're talking 2024. So the quarterback market went from $20 million per to $60 million per in 13 years.
Yep.
So again, like this spending, like, and I know like the numbers like make your eyes pop out of your head a lot of the time, Jamar Chase getting over $40 million. Well, what are the Bengals supposed to do? You know what I mean? Like, let him go. I mean, it's just, if you have a franchise player like that, you swallow hard and you say, like, let's just hope this doesn't hurt too much in a couple of years, you know? It's just the economics of the game are what they are. And, I think if you're a team spending in this environment, you're doing it in large part on the faith that the business of the game is going to continue to thrive. And these contracts are going to look like these contracts are going to be held in a much different context a couple of years down the line.
Albert, I know we got to go and we got to let you go as well, but real quick, because I teased it about the NFL draft, if Ashton Jeanty is available for the Bears when they pick at 10, do they pass up one of the strengths of the draft, and that's the defensive line, in which they have struggled to actually develop a pass rusher?
I mean, the couple things I would say there. Number one, most people I've talked to think there are two players that are above the line in this year's class. Those two players are Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter. I had an interesting conversation with Daniel Jeremiah, and he and I have traded information and stuff, and so we do an on the record thing before the combine. So, he actually had said to me that he thinks Ashton Jeanty, just on ability, is in that category with those two, which got my attention. Now, we can argue over positional value all you want, but that's how he views them. So if you go to the positional value thing, and again, you want to look at Ben Johnson's background, like look at what the Lions did. A couple of years ago in the draft, they stunned everybody with their 2 first-round picks by taking an off-ball linebacker and a running back. And how did things turn out with that running back? I'd say Jahmyr Gibbs was a big hit for them, right? I just tell you that to say Jeanty is seen as that sort of player, if not at the Carter-Hunter level, like close to it. And he may fall in the Bears' laps because of positional value, and the Bears may be a team that looks at the positional value thing a little bit differently now with Ben Johnson as the head coach. So we'll see what happens, but I wouldn't rule it out.
Albert, thank you so much. We appreciate all your time this morning. Great catching up with you.